Well, hello, everyone. It is such an honor to be here with you all as we prepare for our Candlelight Christmas concert. Many of you know that every year we always like to keep you guessing with some new surprises, with new repertoire and new voices. And I'm so excited to welcome to our TWC community a dear colleague of mine that I've known now, gosh, probably 10 years or 10 plus years. We've always talked about working together, but I knew that we had the perfect opportunity for this collaboration, and I asked Gilson Voth to be our composer for our Candlelight Christmas. Hi, Ellen. How are you?
Good to see you.
Good to
Yeah,
see you
delighted to
as
be
well.
here talking with you.
Glad to have you here. And let's jump right in. And I'd love for you to share a little bit about your process for selecting the text, which is very special to me for your piece called Peace, My Soul. And how, first of all, how you chose, why did you choose that text? Just talk to us a little bit about that.
Yes, well, first of all, it's an absolute delight to be commissioned by TWC. I've long admired the chorus and thrilled for your work with them, Eugene.
Thank
And
you.
I'm delighted to have a piece in this tradition in DC in December. So I use many sources for texts. I keep a lot of poetry on hand, and I'm constantly looking through the internet for various texts of all different shapes and sizes. And when I
Mhm.
came upon this poem, which was actually a poet recitation, it was Maya Angelou who recited this poem at a tree lighting in DC years ago. I thought, what a fabulous connection to DC, but also the
Yeah.
way she captures the themes. When I look for poems or texts of any sort, I'm looking for what is timely and timeless and
Mm,
finding that magic balance. And I saw that in this poem right away, and just so grateful for the permission to use it and the opportunity to make some selections from it. It's a long poem, and so to be able to
yes.
choose carefully sections that I felt were representative of the whole and then weave them together into this piece.
Sure. A couple of questions following up with that. Is there a video at all of, or audio of her reciting this poem that we
I
could share with
believe
our
there
audience?
is. I believe
Okay.
there is. I'll do some hunting, but
We'd
it,
love to share that out because I think it just will draw people in, even more to hear some of that text. Obviously, one of the things that I love about what you do as a composer is you're given these words, and then obviously living with those words. What was your process of setting those words to music?
well, in this case, I think the biggest challenge was choosing what sections of the poem would land in the piece.
Sure.
Knowing that the whole poem, I wouldn't, given the amount of time, I wouldn't be able to do justice for the whole. But then going in and really extracting how to pull it together so that you're guiding your singers and your audience on a journey, because she begins in this poem with asking some heavy questions. We ask ourselves, what have we done?
Mhm.
And Christmas enters, and then moving towards the vision of hope and peace, and how to guide
Yes.
singers and audience members purposefully on that journey in a
Mhm.
way that isn't trite or predictable, but it is deep and authentic to her and her voice and to the moment. So that was really my biggest challenge, was how to create the architecture. And I do like to focus on architecture very much in the beginning of the process. And I work away from technology in the beginning. I take regular staff paper, pencil, typically put out the text with a lot of space underneath each line,
Mhm.
and mine the text for the rhythms. And I
Yes.
experiment with possible different rhythms, and then work out melodic ideas and how they converge. And then it's not until the piece is really fully formed do I actually sit down with computer software and put it in, because I want it
Sure.
formed separately from that without making other decisions about details, but really put together that architecture. And in this case, I was looking for a movement from heaviness to hope, from hurt to hope, and the
Mm.
promise of peace. And so that
Yes.
was really what was guiding me. And it's just been a delight to live with this text and see it come together.
I can tell you specifically working with the chorus on this piece, it resonates a lot with people right now. Regardless of folks' background or their political persuasions, it's just the idea that we need peace, period. You know what I mean? I don't care what folks' background is or where they stand. We just need it right now in our world. And I told the chorus, this piece will speak to I think everyone in the audience because that's a universal desire and longing is that we have peace regardless of where we stand. And so I thank you for that gift. I'm curious if you find it more challenging to write a Christmas new work versus just a regular new work.
In this case, I wanted it to have that balance of realism and hope. So even
Mhm.
like where it sets all the earth's tribes loose in their voices to celebrate the promise of peace, I don't immediately resolve the chord on peace. There's a
Yeah.
pinched pain in
Yeah.
that. And so balancing that at the same time, knowing people come to the Kennedy Center and they come to Christmas or holiday themed concerts all over the country and world, and they're looking to leave their burdens outside the door and come in and be immersed in something that allows them to step away from that and experience something new and be bathed in sound and
Yes.
in a positive way. And so balancing that, finding
Yeah.
that balance, it's a challenge for every piece. And I think all the more potent when you're writing music for the holidays.
Sure, sure. I love the idea of being bathed in sound. You are speaking my language. Um,
Good.
let's change up a little bit. Let's open it up a little broader to obviously you write for so many various forces. And I'm curious, who are some of your compositional inspirations or composers that you connect with the most as you in the past or present?
That's a great question. Whenever I'm asked this question, I think about my work as a conductor and how everything I study, whatever it might be, influences my work subconsciously or consciously, and then to the degree we're really able to write separately from that, we're always influenced by these other voices that we've studied. And I've been fortunate over these years to have an opportunity to study deeply of works across centuries. This
Yes.
fall, it has been everything from studying and preparing a chorus to do a Bach cantata, and then Haydn
Nice.
and contemporary settings of Bernstein and McClure with
Sure.
percussion and the like. So the whole gamut and all of that influences my work. And I think it's in asking the why question. Why does the composer do this? What tools are they taking out of their toolbox to create an impact in this moment? And that question, however I ask it with whatever composer I'm asking it, ultimately then comes back. What's my toolbox in this piece? What's the text I've been given? What are my sounds, in this case, mixed choir, piano, and
Yeah.
horn? And how do I harness those tools for the maximum impact?
Mm. Do you think I love that? I'm a big fan of the use of horn and voice and horn and piano and voice. At Brahms, we think of Brahms for me a lot when I
Yep.
hear those colors, maybe Mulholland, as I think of a contemporary composer. What inspired you to use the horn for this?
Well, certainly there's a practical level that you have these fabulous brass players who are there. There's always
Yes.
that. Years ago, I wrote a piece actually that was a prelude to a performance of the Brahms Requiem, and
Ah,
it was intended to set the tone before the beginning of that piece. And I took
oh,
a John Donne poem and then did a Lux Aeterna setting. This was years ago, and I had a Brahms orchestra at my disposal, so of course I was in heaven for that. So there's that practical aspect, but also because the addition of one other color and
yes.
the impact that can have
Oh,
on
yes.
singers and listeners is significant. So as this piece goes out into the world, I'm delighted for it to be available to choirs with
Yes.
horn and piano, as well as C instrument and piano, as well as piano alone. So it has maximum flexibility beyond this premiere, but for this premiere,
Yes.
in this moment, the color of the horn has a warmth and a nostalgia that I think matches perfectly.
Yes, and I'm excited to say that it's going to be one of the premiere pieces that's coming out in my series with E.C. Shermer. So
Great.
I'm very, very happy about that. I mean, the publisher, when I sent this to them, they were like, "Oh, we have to." We have to include Ellen's piece. This is gorgeous. I know that many will perform this and find it. I think the piece works all year. I don't, even though it has some elements of, obviously Christmas. I think the message is so universal and so timely. I think people can add this on their programs anytime. I definitely plan on programming it with all sorts of choirs at different times of the year.
That's
Um,
wonderful to hear because I wrestled with even the title, which for those of us who are composers, sometimes that's the first thing, sometimes it's the last thing. For me, often it's the last. And the poem is
wow.
entitled Amazing Peace. But what I was
Hmm?
drawn to in that last line was peace, comma, my soul.
Yeah.
It's more than just a description of peace with an adjective, but it's a direction to the inner person. And that because it's the last line of the poem, making it the title and the first impression that people have. That was what drew me, so that it lives at the holidays, but it lives beyond the holidays as well. Here.
Absolutely, it does. And I can already hear the many choirs that I'm going to work with do this piece.
Good.
If you could tell our audiences one thing to listen for, obviously you've said a lot, but if you want to really like take a moment now and specifically say, yes, I referred to this quickly, but I really want you to listen more specifically towards this, what would that be?
That's hard to say. One thing I do briefly quote, but not in a heavy way, it's a lighter reference, is the carol In the Bleak Midwinter, because it
Mm,
talks about snow falling upon snow upon snow. So this idea, often in music or an art form, we associate snow with something light or atmospheric, but in her poem, the snow is something heavy. It's
mm,
something that's burdensome. And so I had to wrestle with that, how to create that in the piece. And then from there, the idea of the end of it opening up in the bleak midwinter, opening up a path towards something bigger, an
mm,
opportunity for warmth and acceptance, right? So that journey being a significant one. But I also think the ending, peace, my brother, peace, my sister, we look at our world and speak the word aloud,
yes.
as she does, and that moves back and forth between the voices.
Yes.
So it's intended to be very open and welcoming in
Mm,
that space. So to focus on how those motives pass back and
yeah.
forth. Those
I
would be two things. I could say more, but I'll
my
let those rest.
brother.
Yeah.
Peace. I love that. Peace. I mean, oh, it's just anyway, it's I love that. Passing, and it's also like passing. We think about certain services where peace is passed,
Right.
you
Right.
know, it has a little bit of that as well. We're passing this piece to everyone. Anyway, this has been great. Thank you for making the time. I hope we make you proud with our performance. We are definitely having a love affair with this beautiful,
I'm
beautiful new
so
song.
glad. I'm thrilled, and I will be there in person. Can't wait to hear it in real
Excellent.
time. So
Can't wait. Can't wait.